night, and I just landed in Italy, in Bari, all the way in the south. And you might wonder, what on earth is he doing in the south of Italy? Well, in a few days, we're going to have a book launch here in Matera, well known from the latest Bond film, No Time to Die. And I'm going to relax here a little bit, and tomorrow morning, I'm going to drive off with my rental car to Matera, where I'll meet Simon Firth, and Simon is the author of the book. And I took some stuff with me. Let me show you. It's probably the heaviest suitcase I've ever brought. It's filled with books, and more books. So that's the book we're gonna launch on October 7. Italy, the latest travel guide from On the Tracks of 007. It's a 45-minute ride from Bari, so it's actually quite easy to get there. So let's see what the day will bring. Whether there's light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, it seems there is. I'm finally at the hotel, but they put us in a wonderful spot. Let me show you. This is the view from the hotel. It's not actually a hotel. It's more like an old convent or a small monastery, and it's absolutely breathtaking views from up here. There you can actually see the spot where Madeline and Bond entered Matera in the film, when they drove through a tunnel, which was actually a fake tunnel. They entered Matera. But the best part of it is that they put us, the view from our balcony is onto the Piazza Duomo, which is the spot where the motorcycle jump ends. It's absolutely amazing. Great location to be at. So here we are at the Casa Cava, where it's all going to happen. The book presentation tonight, and let me show you around. We're inside a cave, but actually everything here is inside a cave. So it's a fantastic location. Beautiful stage, and behind me you can see Simon, you can see Adelaide, who is doing the interviews on stage, and it's a magical place.
Keep that guy in the chair. Don't let him out of that chair. Okay. He's going to make a mess at Casacava.
Well, I walk like she's in the here. Wow, no? Siamo nelle location che abbiamo appena visto, quindi mi sembra incredibile. Grazie a Martijn per questo montaggio. È assurdo, stiamo per parlare di location, di film, di cinema e quindi di turismo, noi qui in Italia, con due stranieri che hanno scritto una guida turistica per noi e anche per gli altri. Allora vorrei chiamare qui sul palco l'autore Simon Firth. Please come here with us. And Martijn Mulder, he's the editor designer of the book. Sit down, please, yes. Parleremo un po' in inglese, un po' in italiano. Se ci sono dei dubbi, ovviamente fate le vostre osservazioni e le vostre domande. Do you want to say anything right now? Just welcome and thank you for being here.
Well, actually, I would just like to say a few words, so sorry for jumping the gun. I would just like to say thank you very much indeed to the people of Matera for coming here today. I would specifically like to say thank you very much to the Matera Film Festival for inviting us here. And a personal thanks to you just for getting us here and to make our journey so easy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's nothing more to add.
Nothing more.
Just thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Okay, let's start. I have a few questions about this book. The title is On the Tracks of 007, The Guide of Italy. I have a question for you, Martin. Who and what is On the Tracks of 007?
On the Tracks of 007 is a website. It started as a website about James Bond filming locations. And I started it in 1995, and it's actually the longest running dedicated James Bond dedicated website on the internet. And it's all about filming locations. And from that website, I started making books, travel guides, because I wanted to show people how to get to all these places. And that grew into actually quite a large community of people who love to travel and who like the James Bond lifestyle. And the thing with James Bond is he always goes to the most beautiful places. He always is in the most beautiful hotels, the best, the best places. So yeah, everybody wants to be like James Bond. So everybody wants to travel to the places where James Bond is.
I tried just with the glasses, but I don't think it works.
No?
Don't spoil it, Jack. Of course it works.
Okay. Another one. Okay, it's for both of you. After your previous publications, loro hanno fatto altre guide, quindi ci sono state già quelle fatte in Giappone, in Thailandia, in Costa Azzurra. What do you decide to go for Italy as a new subject?
I think so. The previous book was Côte d'Azur, and this was pretty much just me talking about myself and talking about the country and the Bond film and book and the actor residence locations. And to be honest, this was the first book that I had done with Martin. I had a great working experience from it, and a few people were sort of reading it, they liked it. We were talking afterwards, and Martin said, "So, what do you want to do next?" And I said, "Well, it's got to be Italy." And I think I'm right in saying, actually, we haven't talked about this, but when we were having this conversation, didn't someone text you, sort of saying, "Well, Côte d'Azur is okay, but when are you doing Italy?" And so it just became like the gods were saying, "Do Italy."
Yeah, it was a good timing. Obviously, also because we knew that No Time to Die would film in Italy. And the beautiful thing about Italy is that they, over the years, they filmed everywhere, from Venice to, well, you just saw the video. And so they used a lot of areas in Italy. So it lent itself very well for a travel guide.
And Simon, how did you tackle the job of writing the book?
Basically, by trade, I'm a project manager, and I don't start anything at all without understanding the scope of the project, the length and breadth of what it involves. So, really, the very first thing that I did was to create a really long list of all of the locations in the films, in the books, and if it was appropriate, any residences that people close to the James Bond history had lived in. And so I put this list by Martin, just to make sure that I hadn't missed anything. And then I spent the next 2 weeks looking at an empty screen, trying to figure out how to get this book started, because what I didn't want was to write a book which was a long list of locations, something happened over there and something happened here, and there had to be a way into it. And once I found that, then I was able to write. I think the difference with this book compared to Côte d'Azur is that this came at COVID, so no one could travel, and I was thinking, if I can't have my experiences or my memories than whose. There's got to be some colour and context into what we put into this book. It's not just a list. So I had a chat with a friend of mine. He's called Gareth Owen, and he was the personal assistant to the great man that was Sir Roger Moore, and he knows everyone. And I put this predicament to him, and he said, well look, let me introduce you to a couple of people and we can see how it goes. And he introduced me to, first of all, John Glenn, the director of 5 James Bond films. And that kind of gave me the confidence to go out and find my own people. And about 75 to 80% of the people that I spoke to for this book are themselves Italian. Italian location scouts, location managers, a whole bunch of people, and it turned out to be a fascinating, beautiful exercise. I loved it.
How did you do this? How did you speak to them? Because of the COVID, of course. You were talking to me this morning about
Yes, I was.
a new kind of,
It was.
chatting.
Well, I used Zoom, right? Zoom was our COVID friend, and I basically found a number of these people through names via IMDb. I made a connection with them through LinkedIn. I got about a 50% return rate. But then once you know one person, one of the questions I always ask at the end is, who else should I be speaking to? And they would invariably say, well, for this film, you need to speak to this person. So the network grew very, very quickly. But in terms of how I spoke to them, I would always present them first with a list of locations that they had worked on. These guys are very busy. They forget as much as I remember, honestly. They are very, very busy. So I remind them first of what we're going to talk about. I give them a sample list of questions. I then invite them to a Zoom call. I ask their permission to record. I record the chat. Then I transcribe, send it back to them, and I ask them, is this okay? Is this going to work for you? Do you wish to add or subtract anything? So it's very much a collaborative exercise.
Perfect. But there was maybe one guy you didn't call. It was Gio Goretti, probably. Abbiamo fatto una piccola sorpresa perché Geo, che qui ha lavorato al film, ha fatto gli extra casting, quindi forse soltanto con te non hanno parlato per il film. Hai qualche domanda da fargli? O forse loro hanno qualche domanda per te. Do you have any questions for him? Maybe. Geo, I introduced
Yes,
him to you
absolutely.
before.
So honestly, it's one of the... Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. So one of the first questions that I ask anyone is how did you get into working in film, and then specifically how did you get this job?
Yes, I understand, but my risposta sarà in italiano. My English. Allora, il mio lavoro è stato quello di appunto extra casting, cioè quello della ricerca delle figurazioni, che appunto le figurazioni che vediamo nei film di solito che occupano dei ruoli, diciamo, che sono altrettanto importanti quanto gli attori, perché completano un po' la scena. E quindi noi siamo occupati di fare questo tipo di ricerca. Abbiamo appunto anche non solo figurazioni degli adulti, ma anche fatto una ricerca sui minori, perché in alcune scene del film, quelle della processione per esempio, avevamo ingaggiato circa 300 figurazioni tra adulti e minori. Vediamo se sì, dai un pezzettino di traduzione magari.
Do you want me to, can you help me? Okay, I can try. Anyway, he's saying that there was a scene in the movie where they needed 300 children in the scene, so he had...
Not children,
Not
adulti e bambini insieme, per la processione,
for the procession scene, so he had for that scene, obviously, and...
Poi abbiamo ricercato anche c'è una scena in cui si vede poco però, perché ci sono stati molti tagli, cioè, ho visto che c'è un montaggio molto serrato nel film, anche la banda della città di Matera, the band, the city. Abbiamo fatto anche delle prove perché provavamo con yes, con il responsabile della musica del film, venuto appositamente da Los Angeles per ascoltare il brano e per decidere quale brano quella banda doveva eseguire all'interno della scena. So se...
What music they had to use in the scene.
Ok, e quindi c'è questa scena bellissima, quella del salto della moto,
The motor jump.
dove effettivamente il regista, Keri Fukunaga, ha voluto ascoltare e registrare dal vivo il pezzo che suonava la banda.
Ah, ok.
Perché a lui piaceva molto, infatti hanno anche acquistato dal maestro anziano della banda di Matera i diritti, insomma, musicali per questo tipo di musica. Sono dei piccoli aneddoti che vi racconto. E poi vi diceva, come si chiama? Martin, della scena delle pecore, sheep scene.
Cioè, ci chiedevano delle pecore,
100,
delle pecore, se lui
100,
era occupato
100,
appunto di queste figurazioni extra. Quindi in effetti è così.
Abbiamo cercato queste pecore e più i pastori, ovviamente, che erano nostre figurazioni, che erano dei ragazzini che appunto poi abbiamo provato, perché le pecore erano un po' indisciplinate, diciamo, è difficile da gestire queste pecore che scappavano nei deviati. E poi c'è questa scena delle pecore che a un certo punto ostacolano il percorso della macchina di James Bond, e quindi ci abbiamo messo 3 giorni per fare quella scena, insomma.
They had 3 days to make that scene, because they weren't so good actors actually.
I have a question about the sheep. So one of the questions that one of the points I actually raised in the book was for a film which was by then already very delayed, not in the release but in the production, because the first director left. One never works with children or animals.
Yeah, that's true. They always say that.
Why, if the film is already so delayed, did you decide, let's work with animals?
Cioè lui dice, spesso si dice mai lavorare con bambini e animali, no? Quindi perché questa scelta?
È stato un po' un cliché, diciamo.
Ah, è vero.
No, vabbè, ma loro non avevano problemi di tempo, perché non assolutamente, anzi giravano una scena al giorno. La scena di San Giovanni, della macchina che gira e poi spara, no? Là siamo stati 1 settimana per farlo, quello lì. La scena proprio della sparatoria di San Giovanni. One scene, one day. 2 scene. Yeah, 1 scene a day. 2 scene a day, 1 scene, 2 scene a day. Perché le scene erano molto complicate da organizzare, perché c'erano appunto da allestire ogni volta gli effetti speciali, soprattutto con le esplosioni, e ogni volta c'era da ripristinare tutto il set, perché la scena di San Giovanni, dove la macchina spara e gira, prevedeva l'esplosione dei vetri del bar, dell'edicola, che era stata appositamente messa lì, era un'edicola di scenografia, poi c'era una bancarella con delle statuette di gesso, e poi c'erano i muri della chiesa che erano stati rifatti, perché ovviamente i proiettili non potevano, cioè gli esplosivi non potevano scalfire il muro della chiesa, quindi c'era un muro completamente rifatto, quindi ogni volta, e poi c'era una marea, mi ricordo, io conservo un bossolo, di bossoli che uscivano dalla macchina, reali, e quindi bisognava raccogliere tutti i bossoli, bisognava ripristinare l'edicola, bisognava ripristinare i vetri e quindi tra un ciak e l'altro passavano 2 ore, quindi potete immaginare. E poi c'era l'ingresso della scena, c'era l'incidente, e vi racconto questo aneddoto. Dici un attimo.
Vuoi salire? C'è una fiacco a Simon?
Se viene Luca, vieni a darci una mano.
No, so you can speak, puoi parlare, lui nell'orecchio può tradurre.
Ok.
Allora raccontagli quello che gli ho detto del... Sì, ma finisco sicuramente.
Especially the scene in San Giovanni, we were in the power of they start shooting everywhere in a very complicated scene. Actually, he's about to tell us a short story, you know, because of all shells, you know, the actual live shells around. Because at the end of the series, they had to clean everything up, set up newspapers there, and bring these chalk statues. Oh, the wall of the church is not in front. So now it's going to cross.
Yes, please, honestly, let's hear the man talk. I'm sure the audience is ready for that.
E poi l'ultima cosa è, vi lascio, mi accomodo da quell'altra parte, è proprio sempre nella scena di San Giovanni, cioè proprio l'ingresso, l'inizio della scena, c'è questo incidente tra la macchina di James Bond e questo fuoristrada che arriva a tutta velocità. Allora, il primo ciak, mi ricordo che c'è stato veramente l'incidente, c'è stato veramente un urto importante, vero, e infatti si sono spaventati un po' tutti perché hanno controllato immediatamente le stand dentro come stavano, perché la botta è stata veramente forte e il regista si è incasato. Bellissima, non avremo mai più una scena così. L'avete ripresa? No. Ecco. Grazie.
Grazie Gio, grazie. No. Grazie. Yeah. Sì. Okay, please, Martin. Well, let's go back to the focus. Let's say, Martin, how important is James Bond film? Is James Bond for tourism?
That's a very good question. James Bond can be very important for tourism. There are quite a few examples in the world where an area has benefited immensely from the presence of James Bond, or the presence in a James Bond film. I can name, for instance, Piz Gloria, which is a mountaintop restaurant on top of Mount Schildhorn in Switzerland. And it was part of 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. But many tourists go there every day just to see the James Bond connection. I mean, it has great views as well, but the James Bond connection is very important. Another good example is what we call James Bond Island in Thailand, which is a very tiny island. And there are many similar islands all around it, but that specific island became James Bond Island because it was in The Man with the Golden Gun. And the tourism industry there is really good, and they really make the most out of it. So in that respect, yeah, the James Bond can be pretty important for any region, and I truly hope that it will help here as well, because Matera is pretty important, especially in the first part of the film, and it looks stunning. So I think you could really benefit from it.
Adesso invece vorrei invitare qui sul palco Tiziana Loppido, l'assessore, per entrare un po' più nel vivo e parlare di cineturismo, quindi la faccio accomodare qui. No, prego, io tanto faccio, perché è fuori dall'inquadratura, si può sedere lì, poi io mi accomodo. Eccoci. Ok, sta diventando affollato, è un film corale. Ok, benvenuta. Cedo il microfono e abbiamo fatto una piccola chiacchiera, insomma, abbiamo visto questo bellissimo contributo fatto da Martijn video, dove abbiamo potuto godere di tutte le scene girate in Italia in tutti i film di James Bond, quindi stavamo un po' chiacchierando su come è nato questo libro, sul perché lo hanno fatto. Quindi se possiamo parlare un po' di cineturismo, le cedo la parola.
Grazie. In realtà vorrei capire, Adelaide, se parliamo in inglese, in italiano. Un po'. English voi avete la cuffia oppure no? Tutto in inglese ugualmente, perché abbiamo un interprete in italiano. So, I'm sorry for being late. I'm sorry, I had an unpredicted meeting at the city council. I had a few questions about your book, really, before talking about cinema and tourism in Matera. I don't know if probably you've already asked them, so I'm not sure. I had to look at the book in the meantime. It's a beautiful book, by the way. And one of my questions about it was, how would you define it? Like a tourist guide, or no, I don't know, a non-fiction? Because I read it a little bit, of course, because you gave it to me yesterday night, so I just had a quick look at it. But how would you define it as a genre or anything like that? Maybe Simon or Martin can reply with that.
Well, the thing is, with all the On the Tracks of 007 books, defining the genre has always been a problem, because it's not just a travel guide. It also says, it tells things about the history of areas, but it also is a look behind the scenes. It's also a cinematic book, I suppose. So it's a combination of all that.
I was curious to know, how would you define it?
I would define it, and I set out to write it, first and foremost as a celebration of the country of Italy, and a celebration of
That's flattering.
James Bond's time in it. Yeah, but you deserve it, right? So that's how I wrote it, and indeed one of the. In trying to create a connection between what I'm writing and an audience, I started right back in the 1800s. Cubby Broccoli, one of the first two producers of the James Bond films, his father was born in Italy, and he was born in a very small town, or small village in fact, called Caroline, in the Calabria region. In the 1800s, he spent his formative years down there. He emigrated to New York. He met and married a lady in New York who happened, quite by chance, to come from exactly the same area as he did. And they gave birth to Cubby Broccoli, who, as we know, went to Hollywood and had a small career in film. So it's basically it's a journey. So and I want to try and get people to get engaged with the book, and then to see what they feel about the country of Italy, and if they would like to use it as a guide. I mention all of the addresses.
Thank you. So I guess this is going to be sold everywhere in the world, right? You're going to sell it everywhere. Yeah. So I don't know if you know already about the book, but I didn't count them, but it's like 20 to 25 pages, which are just dedicated to Matera, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's a lot, you know, more than 20 pages of this book about Italy and James Bond series is about Matera. So it's really a lot. We thank you so much for being, you know, as a counselor. I'm very proud of that. And I wonder, I guess, as these two themes are connected, so James Bond, cinema, tourism are somehow connected one to the other. So I guess everything starts from a passion you have of a James Bond series and movies. I guess that's a starting point, right?
Yeah, yes, it's safe to say, it's fair to say that yes, there has been a passion for the story of James Bond for more years than I care to remember. So yes, I started out as a young fan of the Roger Moore movies. The first film I saw in the cinema was probably Moonraker, and it was the perfect film for a 13-year-old boy to see in the late 1970s. But since then, what James Bond means to me has changed over the years, and as the longevity of the James Bond series is now nearly 70 years. James Bond for me now is more of a portal through which I can look at various sort of very niche-oriented areas of interest. Just prior to locations, I was very interested in how the Bond movies were marketed. So poster design, art, stills, lobby cards, how the cinemas marketed the Bond films. And that was for a long time a strong interest. But I have always liked to travel, and so I was naturally gravitating towards these books with Martin.
That's my last question. That's I have another.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, me, yeah. Then I have to ask you.
Because I was walking around Matera yesterday, and I found all these places where they filmed for No Time to Die. Obviously, because they were in our book, so I could just follow our book to find everything as a guide. But I noticed that there are totally no signs anywhere saying, okay, here on this square they filmed No Time to Die, or at least James Bond was here. And I just wanted to encourage you to make the most out of it and to benefit from the possibilities that the James Bond film gives you. I think there's a potential, touristic potential.
There is a huge tourist potential. Most of it has to come as a request from private agencies, travel agencies. It's not the comune, which is the municipality, really, which has to, start a process like that. But as it's a great remark you're making, because this has already happened in the past. For example, you probably don't know it, but there was a series, a TV series, Sorelle, which was shot in Matera a few years ago now, and I Matatarani, we have the second season now, next fall. It's TV, Rai and TV channels. And we found out that some, it's huge. It's a huge visibility gap through TV and cinema. So we found out that many tourists were coming here really asking for that. Where did the two sisters meet, or where? This hasn't happened yet for James Bond, because it just, came up because of the pandemic. It was, we had to wait, and was postponed more than once. But that's a good suggestion, and that's one of the most interesting cinema and tourist tours we could work on. But this really has to start as a private travel agencies and agents and tourist guides, input from their side, and what is our role is to assist them and encourage them and support them in doing that. But it's a great remark. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My question was, yesterday we had, we are working on, as a municipality, City Hall is working on a program which includes this event as well, on the James Bond, theme, like Bond and Motors. I was Joe Coretti, I was listening to him before, or others, like soundtrack. There are more music events and so on. And yesterday we had a couple of witnesses, a couple of stuntmen were from the UK, and who took part in the No Time to Die movie. And they, they were being interviewed. I don't know if maybe you've heard about them. Mark Higgins and one of the motorbike Triumph. Do you know the jump? Yes. Paul Emerson. It's two of them. Their interviews were from the UK. They were very kind to intervene in one of our events, and they were saying that they think that the way it was shot in the landscape, Matera landscape in the movie, was one of the most stunning ones ever. Now, I don't want you to flutter the town, but what do you think? Do you think it was, Matera was somehow underlined the right way, the best way, as you already had a look around in the meantime? Do you think it was, the best way they could picture it in the movie?
Wow, that is a really good question, and right now I don't have a really good answer. Can I take 5 minutes on that?
Sure. Yes.
I do have a bit of an answer, because we were talking about it this morning, actually, that when you think about it, when you compare Italy, for instance, with Spain, when you look at how Spain showed up in the James Bond films, usually it plays another country. They film in Spain to make it look like Havana, or they film in Spain to make it look like Azerbaijan. But in case of Italy, it always is Italy. And a few exceptions, but mostly they film it as it is. And even though they didn't mention the name Matera, I mean, it's all over the news. So I suppose you get thousands and thousands of people.
It was on The Guardian too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other day.
I think, and I hope I'm right in saying this. I think that the Italian look is so specific that when well anywhere anyone films in Italy, then it can only look like Italy. You're not going to be able to film here and pass it off as a different country. So in which case then, I know you weren't necessarily looking to be flattered, but then obviously you have a very distinctive look, an architectural look in Italy, and people come here for the Italian reason.
Although it was also shot as Jerusalem or other, like for the Passion of the Christ, they looked like, it was not supposed to be Italy anyway, but it worked well.
Avete delle domande? C'è qualcuno che vuole fare delle domande?
Puoi salire e farla sul palco così sei nella registrazione. Vieni.
Stiamo facendo quello, non stiamo facendo tutto un po' qui perché abbiamo le dirette.
Ah!
Sì.
Hi, I'm Jada from the Liceo Artistico Carlo Levi, and I'm here to ask, between the various books you wrote about different states, what was the one that took more time, that required more work to be composed, but the one that you felt more related to?
Well, from my point of view, since this is only my second book, there are many others in the works at the moment in various stages of completion. But I was very, very connected to this book. And I think the example that I can give here is actually what I was talking to you, Adelaide, earlier on today. So the majority of the people that I spoke to for interview for this book were themselves Italian. And this was at a time when COVID meant that you couldn't travel anywhere. And for about 4 months I was speaking all the time. I was not working, so all the time speaking to people on Zoom, on video conference calls, seeing into their homes and into their places of work. And it was very much, for me, a mini holiday, listening to all of these fascinating people with their gorgeous accents, telling me these amazing stories, which I wanted to get, and they are all in the book. And the story that we were talking about earlier on was that there came a point when it became apparent that I had spoken to enough people. I had enough information. There was maybe one person where I was beginning to hear the same story again. And I was talking to my partner, Nula, she can't be here with us today, and I said, I think I've got to abandon this process. And it was quite emotional for me. It was, I did not want to leave it alone, but I had to, because it just made sense. And I was reminded of an interview between a couple of podcasters in the States and Christopher McQuarrie, the director of the Mission Impossible films, and the two guys there asked McQuarrie, how do you know when a movie is complete? And he said, boys, a movie is never complete, it's just abandoned. Or in the case of a Tom Cruise movie, it is ripped from your hands. Now, no one was ripping this from my hands, but I knew I had to abandon it, and I hated it.
Grazie Giada, grazie. Thank you, Simon. We have another question actually. Yes, please come here. Thank you.
Good evening. Okay.
Good evening.
I forgot how to say that. I'm Annalisa from the Liceo Artistico di Matera, and I wanted to ask, how do you overcome writing block?
Writing block?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Ooh, gosh. So I don't really have writing block with this just yet. Most of the way in which I write these books now comes from finding people to speak to. So the issue really is in making sure that I have got someone's colour and context and history for every single location that I talk about. Where I have, let's say, a writing block is at the very beginning of the writing of a book, and I have had that with two more that I'm writing after this, as well as this one, in how to get an immediate connection between hopefully the people that read it, that want to read it, and for them to immediately feel, actually, you know what, there is something to read here. How do I make that connection? And with Italy, I think I spent about 2 weeks coming up with the story about Cubby broccoli. But in fact, I also came up with another question, which I also asked of myself, and that was as part of this same 2-week process of writer's block, the blank screen on the computer. And that was, why has it taken so long for James Bond to come to Italy? And now that we have Daniel Craig's rather explosive take on the character, he has been to Italy out of his 5 films 4 times. And so James Bond is coming to Italy with more increasing frequency. And I just wanted to ask the question of the people that were reading this, and then together we go on a journey, and hopefully there is some understanding as to why James Bond is coming here more and more often.
I wanted to ask a question to him because he never speaks, so I wanted to include it. So we already know he likes to travel. He said that. Yeah.
Yeah, but actually he is the one who went to visit all the locations.
Yeah. Okay. You just answered the question
Simon.
for the hard work.
Not Simon.
Is it? It's kind of funny because you just answered what I wasn't asking.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Mark. Okay.
It's funny.
Well.
When I was big, so okay. Sorry.
No, but traveling to the James Bond locations all around the world is a wonderful thing to do, and it's a great hobby. And like I said earlier here, it always takes you to the most beautiful places, to the most beautiful hotels. So it's quite easy to convince a girlfriend or a wife, come with me, we're gonna go James Bond location hunting. And she said, where are we going? And you show the picture, the image of that 5-star hotel somewhere in the tropics, and she says, I'm with you. So that works really well.
So Matera was the last one. You didn't come here actually. It was the only one.
No, that's
the only one. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Altre domande? Do you have any other questions? No?
Do you have a favorite James Bond actor among the 5 of them? I know it's a fun question, but I was just wondering, what's your favorite James Bond?
It's always the guy that you grew up with. I think Desmond Llewellyn, who played Q in the first 17 films, I think. He understood who will always be the favourite James Bond for everyone, and that's who you grew up with. And so for me, it's Sir Roger Moore. Yeah.
I suppose they all have their.
There are teams, Connery team, Moore team,
Yeah, but-
Craig team. I so many. Not much of Dalton team and.
Oh, they absolutely
There
are
are, yeah.
Dalton fans, yeah. And,
Yeah.
and there's just as much people who hate, who don't like a certain actor. But you know, they all have their thing, and it's like asking somebody what's your favorite Bond film. It happens, it changes. It depends on your mood. So yeah.
Ok.
Luca.
Prendi il microfono.
Actually, I know something came up while you guys were talking, actually, and when the councilwoman came up. So, obviously, you know, cinema tourism and just in general, filming of your book is, you know, concentrates on location, and obviously there is also a historical aspect. So, because all the films were filmed in different times. What I guess I wanted to ask is that a cinematic production necessarily takes over the life of a town, of a location. It becomes a big thing in the lives of so many people in these communities, and also with the institutions. So I wanted to ask you guys if, while doing this investigation and doing these this research, you, I don't know, I guess, what were the greatest challenges that were found that, you know, people from crew might have told you in working in Italy, you know, from bureaucracy or whatever, and if that's changed somehow in time, maybe if it's become more simple or complex.
Thank you. That is one of the questions that I ask every location manager, and I must stress that with the writing of these books, I am not looking for anything salacious or controversial. But I asked them what were the challenges. But you know what? Location managers, they're a tough crowd. And they basically take a challenge. They take a challenge and they just make it work all the time. They will keep on plugging away at it. They will keep on working at it. But honestly, there is no actual story about what they find challenging. Possibly because their life is constantly one big challenge, and so one man's challenge is another man's day job. And so honestly, I did not find anything which was challenging, but it's not for the want of not asking that very question.
Bene. Ok, it's done.
Altre domande?
Over. No, game over, no. Yes, altre domande? No, it's okay. Ok, perfect. Io volevo chiamare qui con noi Nando Irene, direttore artistico del Matera Film Festival, per favore.
E lui è colpa sua, prendetevela con lui.
Grazie Nando.
Festival.
Ok.
Buonasera, ciao.
Buonasera.
Grazie per essere venuti.
And once again, thank you so much for having us here in Matera, because we love it here. We never want to go away.
Thank you. Volevo ringraziare per questo, per la presenza di questi due signori scrittori, Thomas, Enzo Sisti, che è il nostro presidente onorario, e tramite lui abbiamo avuto questa occasione preziosa di presentare in esclusiva il libro delle location di 007. Enzo Sisti è il produttore esecutivo dell'ultimo girato a Matera. Lui porta i film internazionali nel nostro territorio e anche oltre. Adesso sta girando una serie per Amazon in giro per l'Italia e per l'Europa. Quindi grazie Enzo e grazie a voi per la presenza al nostro festival. Grazie, ciao.
Yes, we would like to take this opportunity to both you and you to hand over or to present you with a copy of the new book, and we just hope it brings Matera everything you can get out of it, actually.
Ci hanno fatto il migliore augurio possibile.
This is the official part of the evening.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope you enjoy it.
Grazie, grazie. Dopo.
And for everyone looking at home on YouTube, the book is now available. It's available on the tracks of 007.com, and it's available hopefully soon, one of these days, on Amazon. So everybody can buy it, and when you buy it afterwards, come to Matera, because it's wonderful here. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Li potete acquistare sia qui e potete trovarli anche all'auditorium. Dopo possono comprare le copie.
Grazie a Tiziana Doppido, grazie
all'assessore,
grazie al Comune di Matera.
No, una penna così.
Check out onthetracksof007.com and follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.